And today's class is on what is a test case. Well, you may be a person who wants to learn about software testing and don't know much in that area, or you may be a person who is already working in the software industry, whether as a developer, an administrator, writer, production support, or any other role, and want to understand software testing. Now, even though you may not know what exactly is a test case, you may have heard about the term test case. So, let us get started on today's class to understand what exactly is a test case, how it looks like, and how it should be handled. Well, at its simplest, a test case is a set of steps and expected conditions of results. Now, before we start looking into the various components of a test case, we need to understand what is the importance of a test case. Well, before you test any system or you want to test any requirement is being satisfied in that system or not, you need to design a test. Now, when you design the test, you will have to come up with an overall idea of what you want to do and what is your expectation after every operation that you perform. Now, all this can be in your head or it can be documented. When we put the test design on paper or in an Excel worksheet or in any test case management system, that we call as a test case. At its simplest, a test case has steps, and every step may or may not have one or more expected conditions or expected results. So, for instance, you may have a test case, and that test case may have 5 steps, and 3 steps may not have any expected condition or result. Why a particular step in the test case may not have an expected result is something that we'll look at shortly, but the other couple of steps have expected results. So it is possible. So that documentation of the steps that you need to perform and the expected results against each step is called the test case. Now, before you start writing the test case, you need to design the test that you want to perform. So there are several inputs for writing test cases. Before you actually write the test case in its documented format, you need to consider a number of inputs. These inputs can be the requirement documentation. There is a variety of requirement documentation. It can be in the form of business requirements or software requirement specification or technical requirements, functional requirements, non-functional requirements, use cases, user stories. Also, it is possible that you do not have any documented requirements, but still you can arrive at those requirements by talking to the stakeholders in the project. So these stakeholders are the product owner or the business analyst in the project. The stakeholders are the developers in the project manager or the scrum master, these or the client. These are all the people to whom you can talk and get a fair idea of the requirements that the system is supposed to satisfy. So these are the various inputs for writing the test cases. Apart from the requirements, there are other inputs also for writing the test cases. It is possible that the system that is being developed has to conform to certain standards or regulations. So those standards or those regulations become the inputs of your test cases. It is also possible that there are competing systems in the market, and those systems have established some norms as to what is required in your system, so those can also be inputs. And furthermore, there can be available checklists which you can use, or certain standard checks that should be performed. For example, for testing web applications, the testers usually test for the broken links, they test for the application being open correctly in different browsers and different browser versions, etc. So these are some of the standard checks done for web applications. So it is possible that for your particular system there is a checklist available. So these are the various inputs you can use for coming up with the test ideas that you can subsequently translate, convert into test cases. So just a recap, your inputs for writing the test cases are the requirements, your discussions with the stakeholders in the project, standards or regulations or legal requirements or contractual requirements, and checklists and norms for similar systems in the market. Now when you study all of these, then you will come up with test ideas as to what kind of test you should perform. Now just coming up with an idea is not enough, because you need to spell it out in detail exactly what are the steps you will perform, and after each step what is your expectation, what are the expected results that you wish to see in the system if the system is working correctly. So that is what is documented in the test case. Now the test case syntax varies from organization to organization. So by syntax I mean the format of the test case. First of all, the test case can be documented in a text file, it can be documented in Excel, it can be documented in the test case management system, or it can be documented anywhere else. Now different organizations or even different teams within the same organization can have their own format for writing the test case. So you should try to find out that particular format or that particular template, and that you can use to write your own test case. Many a time the test case format is very simple. So all you have is you have the steps, and you have the expected results. Now there is a relationship between the steps and the expected result. So after every step, next to every step, you can put 0, 1, 0 expected result, that means no expected result, a single expected result, or you can even put multiple expected results. Now steps and the expected results are the bare minimum data that should be present in the test case. The very simple test case is going to have steps and it is going to have expected results. Depending on the format or the template of test case being used in the organization or the team, you may have certain other data items therein. Now these are test case ID. Now it is very likely that you are not going to have only a single test case, because many systems, in fact most systems, have multiple requirements, and in order to test each of those requirements, multiple test cases are required. So if you have a large set of test cases, say 100 test cases or 1000 test cases, then distinguishing the test cases becomes important. In that case, a unique ID is assigned to every test case in order to reference it. So you don't have to, if you are talking to someone, you don't have to give the entire test case to the other person. You can just give the test case ID. So this is an optional thing that you can have in the test case. It is possible that the format, test case format in your team organization also has requirement ID. Now requirement ID will come from the requirement documentation. So if you have business requirements, so it is common practice to number or assign unique identifiers to each requirement in order to distinguish those requirements and be able to tell people what requirement you are talking about. So if your test case is to test a particular requirement, you can give that requirement ID also. Again, depends on the template, test case template or test case format that you're using. Now, the test case, when you execute the test case, many a time different inputs are required. So along with the steps, you have to provide some data. For instance, your test case is to test the login functionality of the system, and in order to test the login functionality of the system, you need to provide the login name and the password. Now the login name and the password is the test data that you need to execute the test case, and you can have either no test data, which means that if you are executing the test case, you have to design your own test data at the execution time, or if somebody else is executing your test case, they have to come up with their own test data. But your format may have place for putting the test data, and you can put either one test data set or you can put multiple test data sets. So if there is let us say that in our example of testing the login functionality, so we want to test it out with a valid login name password, an invalid login name and valid password, and valid login name, invalid password. So there are 3 pairs of login name password. So this test data set can be placed along with the test case. So the advantage of placing the test data along with the test case is that you don't have to spend effort, time in designing your test data when you execute the test case, and you can simply take the test data from the test case and use it to execute the steps of the test case. Then the test case has a column, may have a column depending on the format or the template, which says whether it is executed or not. So if the test case has been executed on the current build of the system, then executed will say yes or true, whatever, and if it is not executed, it may be blank or no. Then there can be another place in your test case to indicate if executed, then one of the 3 possibilities is there. So first one is maybe the test case is blocked. Now blocking a test case means that you are unable to execute one of the steps of the test case. So let us say that it says the test case has a first step which says navigate to this particular website, and you find that when you type in the URL of that website in your browser, so it does not show the website. So that means your test case is blocked. When the test case is blocked, you cannot find out whether the test case passes or fails because you are not able to execute the steps only. And this blockage can happen at the first step of the test case itself, which means the test case is completely blocked, or it may happen in one of the subsequent steps. So if it is a 10 step test case, it may be blocked from step 5 onwards. So from step 5 onwards, it is you are unable to execute any of the steps. So that is called a partial blockage of the test case. If the test case is not blocked, which means that you are able to execute each and every one of the steps, then 2 possibilities are there. One is that everything worked as per the expected results. So you were able to execute each of the steps, and whatever expected results were listed in the test case, each of those were satisfied by the system. In that case, the status of the test case execution will be passed. If even one of the expected results does not match, that means the system was unable to satisfy even a single expectation, then the test case is failed. Okay, then you can have place for notes where you can mention additional information. For example, if a test case failed, you have to raise a bug report, and you can mention the bug report ID within the notes, or you can mention some additional notes to yourself if you want to test it. We would like to test it with some other test data or something. Okay, now the test case is as we have seen, now the test case is what is the documented steps and expected results. When we are planning a test run, meaning that a new build of the system is available and the testing needs to happen. Now for that testing, it is possible that you take all of the test cases and execute them, or you plan to execute only certain test cases. So depending on whatever test cases you have chosen to execute in your test run, that becomes your test script. So the test cases that are going to be executed become the test scripts, because they are really certain procedures that you need to execute in your testing. There is the collection of all the test cases is called the test suite, and you may have one or multiple test suites. So if you have functional test cases, then all the functional test cases put together will be called the functional test suite. If you have performance test cases, that set of test cases will be called the performance test suite. If you have security test cases, those test cases will be called the security test suite. Okay, so now we have seen what is a test case. So just remember that test case is a set of steps, and each step can have 0 or more expected results. Now let us go to the test case example to see an actual test case. Okay, so here I have open in front of me an Excel sheet, and this Excel sheet contains a sample test case. Now let us see what items are there in this test case. So at the top is the very heading which says these are all the test cases, and there are columns. So the first column is called the steps. So this column is going to contain each of the steps in each test case. Then there is another column for expected results. So for every step there will be 0 expected result, or 1 expected result, or even multiple expected results. And there is a column for status. Now this is just a sample template of the test case. So in your organization or team, you may have a different template. So just follow whatever is currently the norm in your organization, and you can follow that particular template. Now let us look at this first test case. So here it says this is the test case, and here in cell B3 we can see that there is an ID, there is an identifier mentioned over here. So the ID can be a simple number, or it can be a string of text, or it can be a combination of a number and some text. So here it is a combination. So we see that the test case ID is 1.0.1 browse products. So this is the text that uniquely identifies this test case. In your test suite, there is not going to be another test case with the same ID. That is the important thing to keep in mind, because these test case IDs are unique across the entire test suite. So if you have to write another test case, and that is also for browse products, you cannot use the same ID. So you can use something like 1.0.2 browse products. Now below this we have the steps. So we can see the steps are numbered 1, 2 and 3. So let us look at step number 1. So step number 1 is log into the system as visitor. So this is what has to be done on the system when you are executing the test case. That time you have to log into the system as a visitor. And if we look at the expected results column against this step, it is empty. Now why it is empty is what we said we will discuss later. The expected result can be blank or empty when it is very obvious. So if you are going to be logging into the system as visitor, then the system should allow you to log in, and you should be able to execute the subsequent steps. So that is why it is not mentioned over here. So documented the entire test case, and now you want to execute the test case. So you have the system ready and available to you. You log into the system as visitor. You are able to log into the system as visitor. So you will give the status as passed. Now after that you have to execute the second step. The steps in the test case need to be executed in exactly the same order. You cannot jump from step 1 to step 10, then come back to step 5, then no, that is not what should be done. They have to be executed or operated by you in exactly the same order as given, because the test case, when you write the test case, it also implies a certain flow, so you have to follow exactly the same flow. So you log into the system as visitor, the system allowed you to log in, and this step is pass. Then the second step asks you to select a product category. Now here the test data is not given, so it doesn't specify what product category you should select. So you can select any product category that is shown in the system. Now here, once you select the product category, once a step is executed, the expected result is what should be available after the step is executed. So when we execute the step log into the system as visitor, then we expected the system allowed the user to log in. When we execute the step select a product category, the system, after selecting a product category, our expected result is system should show the relevant products in the product category. So whatever product category you selected, let us say our system that we are testing is an e-commerce shopping website. So you log into the system as visitor, then you select the product category of let's say smartphones. So the system should show you the relevant products. Because you selected the product category smartphones, it should show you smartphones because they are the relevant products in that product category. If you selected product category of watches, it should show you watches. If you selected music, it should show you the relevant tunes or songs, those kind of products. So here selected smartphones, and the system actually showed a number of smartphones, so we can say this is also pass. Now two steps are already executed. Now in our example, after these we have to move on sequentially, so we have to execute the third step of the test case, which is select one product. So here this should not be blocked. Whatever product category you selected, it should show at least one product in that product category. So it says select one product. So if you selected smartphones product category, the system should now be showing a number of smartphones. So you just select one of those smartphones. And once you complete this step, then this is the expected result. And here the expected result is the system should show the product attributes, item name, item price, tax, and delivery days. So here, if you selected the product category of smartphones and you selected a particular smartphone, then the system should show its details, item name, item price, tax, and delivery. So let us say the system shows the item name in full, the item price also, delivery days also, but it does not show the tax on this purchase. So there is, we can say, a minor failure. Just not even the entire expected result is failing, just a part of one expected result is failing over here. So in that case, we will put this particular step as fail, because if all expected results fail, then definitely it is a failure. Even if one expected result fails, then also it is a failure. So here just one expected result, the tax was not visible in the example, so that is why the step failed. So when any of the step in your test case fails, the entire test case fails. So if the test case fails, then you should go and log a bug report where you describe what is the problem, what exactly you did. We'll have another video on the bug report. There we'll go into those details. But just keep in mind that even if one of the expected result fails, that entire step will fail, and because the step fails, even if there is a single step failed in the entire test case, the entire test case would fail. Now, so this is an example of a test case. Now let us look at few more test cases, and here there are more test cases over here. So this entire set of test cases, we have 3 test cases. One test case is 1.0.1 browse products, second test case is 2.3 place order, and third test case is 1.1.2 pay for a job posting. So we have 3 test cases. So these 3 test cases together are called our test suite. So this is a test suite. Our test suite contains 3 test cases. Now it is possible that you want to plan a test run, and in that test run you don't want to execute all the test cases because of various factors. Maybe you just want to execute the relevant test cases, or time is short, so you want to execute the important test cases only. So but you select a subset of the test cases in your suite. So let us say in a particular test run you select browse products and you select place order. You don't select pay for a job posting. So these 2 test cases together, browse products and place order, this entire thing, the collection of the 2 test cases that you want to execute, that you have planned to execute, is called the test script. So your test script is basically the procedure that you have to follow in testing. So that procedure means you are going to execute all these steps and verify the expected results. So what I have selected on the screen is your test script for this particular test run. And keep in mind that the entire set of all the test cases is called the test suite. So in our test suite we have 3 test cases. So just to recap, what is a test case? Well, a test case is a documentation, and from where we get information to create test cases. There are a number of inputs. There is the requirement documentation. We can have discussions with stakeholders in the project. There can be standards or regulations that our system is supposed to fulfill, or there can be certain norms in the industry or certain checklists available. So all these become as inputs for writing test cases. Then you have to convert all these inputs into test cases by writing down the steps and the expected results. So you can do it one by one. For example, if you have 10 requirements, you can take the first requirement and write out 1 or more test cases. Usually in order to test a requirement, it takes more than a test case to test it completely, because requirement can be complex. So for every requirement you may have to write multiple test cases. So you do that for each of the 10 requirements. So for, let's say, for 10 requirements you wrote 50 test cases. Then based on your discussions with the stakeholders, you added another 10 test cases. Then based on standards and regulations, you added another 20 test cases, and then based on checklists and norms in the industry, you added another 20 test cases. So overall you have a set of 100 test cases. Now this set of 100 test cases is your test suite for a particular test run, that is one round of testing. You may select either any of these 100 test cases or all of them. That totally depends on your planning, what you deem important in your testing. Now within the test case, this is the complete test case we have over here. Initially the statuses will be blank, there will be nothing filled into it. So this is the test case. Now if you see, the most important parts of the test cases are the steps and the expected results. So when you run the test case, that time you have to execute the step. After execution of the step, there will be expected result that you need to verify whether such a thing has happened or not happened. So log into the system as visitor. It should allow you to log in, select a product category, then after selecting a product category, it should show the relevant products. Then after selecting one product, it should show the product attributes, item name, item price, and so on. Now you have to execute the steps in the sequential order that is given. After execution of the step, so let us say you execute step number 2, select a product category, you have to verify each and every expected result given against that step. If you are unable to execute a particular step, so let us say you are not able to log in, so here the status is going to be blocked. Or let us say you are able to log in but unable to select a product category because it does not show the product category, then it is going to be blocked. When the blockage is at the very first step, that means the entire test case is blocked, full blockage is there. If any subsequent step onwards is blocked, then that means there is a partial blockage. Whatever is the blockage, you cannot execute any subsequent steps because all the steps have to be executed in sequential order, one after the other, 1, 2, 3. So if a single step is blocked, you cannot execute from that step onwards until the end of the test case. So if none of the steps is blocked, then you can execute the test case. So let us say you were able to log in, so you gave it as pass. Then you selected a product category and of watches, so it showed you different watches, so this is also a pass. Then you selected one particular watch out of the different products shown, and it did show the watch name, watch price, tax, and delivery days, so this is also a pass. When the test case is fully passed, each and every step has passed, and each and every expected result given against each step has passed, then the test case passes and there is no further action required in that particular test run. So this is all about the test case. In summary, just remember, a test case is documented steps and expected result for each step. So it was nice to have this class, and see you in the next class.